Well, and welcome back to this lesson. So far, so we've been able to look at the different types of loop type that we have in JavaScript and examples of how each of these looks like when working with different concepts of JavaScript or different contexts where each of these is needed or useful in JavaScript. Now, aside from what we've discussed about like the for, the while, the do while, the for in, and the for of loop, there are other ways through which you can also uh, do iterations over your object, arrays, or whatever. We have other methods that allow that also allows the properties of your object to be iterated over. So we have other array methods like for each, map method, filter method, and reduce method. These methods provide alternative ways to iterate and manipulate array elements. So, for example, when you are working with array, aside from this loop type that we discussed, there are other methods like for each, the map method, the filter method, and reduce method. This also provide alternative way to iterate and manipulate array elements, often offering a more functional and concise approach compared to traditional loop for array specific operations. So this place is even telling us that even better than the traditional array method that we've talked about, this method when you use them with array, they provide a more functional and concise approach compared to the traditional method for array specific operation. So iterating over objects are not just limited over no, are not limited to just for through to before of loop. There are other methods that can be used to perform iterations over arrays, such as the filter method, the reduce method, the map method, and the for each method. So that is very, very important to note, and don't be confined to the belief or to the notion of the fact that only loop style, traditional loop style can be used to iterate over array objects. No, you can also use other method as it has been said in this definition. Now, JavaScript iterables. An iterable is an iterable object. So we'll be talking about iterable. What exactly is it? We've been talking about iterable that you iterate over objects property, you iterate over array property, you iterate over map property. What exactly is that iterable? An iterable is an iterable object. That simply means that iterable simply means something that can be looped over, something that can be iterated over. So an example is an object or an array. Now the for of loop that we just saw in the previous video, the JavaScript for of statement loops through the element of an iterable object. You can see that directly it looped through the element of that object and then gave us the output. So iterating means looping over a sequence of elements. No, the process of iterable is called iterating, and it means looping over a sequence of elements. So iterating means looping over a sequence of elements, and here are some examples of what you can loop over. So you can iterate over a string, you can iterate over an array. We saw that in the last lesson. You can as well iterate over a set. You can also iterate over a map. And just as the first thing that I said here, that you can iterate over a string, I'm just going to show us an example of how you can use the for of loop to iterate over a string. So let's take a look at that example of how the for of loop can be used to iterate over a string. So let me pull up my code editor and let's quickly take a look at that for of loop. Yes. So here we want to iterate over a string. So what do you do first? You create the string, create a string. And what is that string? Let me say equals to Harvard. Harvard University. So this is a string, right? by default. Now that I have my string, then I need to iterate over it, iterate over the string. And how do I do that? So let me make where I want the result to be stored, which is going to be an empty string. Then I can use my for of method to iterate over this const because my variable requires a name. So let me call it x of school. Then here is my condition, my loop condition. So what do I want as the output? So I want the text to be added to X and then break it. Then come outside of this. Dot inner dot html is text equals text. And now you can see the way the for of loop works with string. So what happened here is that I am saying that take each element of this and then put it on a different on a separate line. That is the purpose of the break. So if I take this out, you will see what it will look like. You can see it loops over and prints the name directly. Because of eligibility and elegance, that is why I just added the break so that you can see. So you can see that with for of loop, you can as well loop over string and not just array and object as well. So your homework is that try and use the for of loop to iterate over a set. So you make a set JavaScript and use the for of loop, and also make a map object and also use the for of loop to iterate over it so that you get the concept better. And so moving away from this, after the practice, you can just let me know in the comment section if you run into any issue or you go get what you or you get the process correctly. Thank you, and in the next lesson I'll see you.